first time I ever saw the North Pillar on Fitzroy, I looked up in amazement, and you see this wall that rises almost 1.5 kilometers out of the glacier, and I knew then that I would always return to Patagonia, and I would, train, I would dream about, and I would push myself so that when I arrived, I would be fit enough and strong enough to climb on these walls that rise out of the Patagonian ice cap. In 2013, I returned to Patagonia once again with good friends Steve Fortune and Jono Clark. This time we were aiming for the east face of Torre Ega and the south east ridge on Cerro Torre. We didn't know it, but the weather would had other plans, and as is usual in Patagonia, often what you imagine is going to happen is nothing like the reality. Succeeding in Patagonia is all about maximizing very short weather windows. During our 5 weeks in El Chaltén, our average amount of good weather averaged about 6 to 12 hours per week. So this would mean leaving town, walking 20 kilometers up the glacier, usually in howling wind, approaching the mountain, starting to climb in the bad weather, and trying to time your push over the summit when the good weather was about. Sometimes this worked, sometimes it didn't. We started off on the east face of Torre Ega, had to retreat from falling ice. The next morning the weather looked like it was holding, so we took a quick run up Media Luna, which was a great little 10-pitch rock climb. After climbing Exocet, we were pretty fired up to get one more big route done, and we saw a short weather window coming up later on the following week, and we thought, what the heck, we'd try and push the west ridge of Cerro Torre from the Torre Valley, which means climbing up over Col Stanhart, down to the Patagonian ice cap, then up a couple of thousand more vertical meters up the west ridge on Cerro Torre, descending back to the ice cap, climbing back over Col Stanhart, and back down to our bivvy at Noriegas. Now this, for a day, takes about 3,500 vertical meters. Most of it's done on moderate to steep ice, and so it's quite a grueling day. And we headed out, we got within 250 meters of the summit, got shut down, back to our bivvy that night, slept a few hours. The weather was still good enough to sneak in one more climb, and we were lucky enough to get up the north face of El Mocho that following morning, arriving at the top just as the snowstorm started, and we got completely soaked and smashed coming back down off El Mocho. For the previous 2 weeks it had been snowing a lot in El Chaltén. Temperatures had been really cold. It had snowed down to almost the height of the village, and with 5 days to go before we were due to fly back to New Zealand, we headed up into the Torre Valley not really with a good forecast in front of us, but we thought, what the heck, we were gonna go up, have a look at the conditions, and try for something big and see what we could get done in this bad weather window. We settled on the Super Canaleta, one of the really classic Patagonian climbs, and we ended up pushing it on a day that was just absolutely freezing. Our Nalgene bottles got so frozen solid that the lids split off the top of them, and we had nothing else to do though, so we just thought, what the heck, we'll keep on climbing, keep on climbing, we won't turn around until we're absolutely forced to. And as luck would have it, we kept on climbing, and the weather slowly improved as we got closer to the summit, and we summited in perfect still weather. By the time we were halfway back down our descent, it was back into storm again, and we walked over to the Torre Valley, picked up all of our gear that we'd left at our base camp, and then walked it back out to town. And in the end, it ended up being a 62-hour push, which was pretty tiring, especially considering the last 8 hours were carrying about 40 kilos each back down the valley to El Chaltén.